Okay, so the directions on these will look a little different, but the idea is exactly the same. You know the ones that we just did, none of them were actually on the unit circle. These will be on the unit circle. So it's going to say find the exact value. Right, so here's number 1. I say 1 minus 2 sine squared of 22.5. Okay, so if you look at your formula chart, which formula does this match? 1 minus sine squared alpha. Matches what? Cosine of 2 alpha. Right? And in this case, alpha is 22.5. So what I have then is cosine of 2 times 22.5, which is cosine of 45 degrees. Now remember, you have to show me one line of work. So I will take either this line or this line, and then your final answer. But is cosine of 45 on the unit circle? Yes, so you have to take it one step farther. It's root 2 over 2 on the unit circle. Number 2. 2 sine of pi over 12 times cosine of pi over 12. 2 sine pi over 12 times cosine of pi over 12. Find which formula that matches. 2 sine cosine. That's going to be on your chart, okay? It would be sine of 2 alpha, or 2 theta, whatever. So you're going to take sine of 2 times pi over 12. Okay, now guys, one's a fraction and one's a whole number. So if you want to put the 2 over 1, and just think about this, I want to multiply these two together. Remember when you multiply fractions, you multiply tops and bottoms. So 2 times pi will be 2 pi, and 1 times 12 is 12. So this is sine of 2 pi over 12. Or you can reduce it, it's the same as pi over 6. Both of those, though, would be on your unit circle. Okay, so on your unit circle, you find pi over 6, which is here, and the sine value then is 1/2. You've got to go all the way if it's on your unit circle. So then the answer is 1/2. Okay, number 3. 1 minus 2 sine squared of pi over 8. You have to decide which one this is. Look at your formulas and pick what is 1 minus 2 sine squared. Pick which one you think it is. It should be cosine of 2 alpha. Okay? So that's the same thing as cosine of 2 alpha. And in this case, alpha is pi over 8. So I want cosine of 2 times pi over 8. And again, you do it the same way. You're going to put the 2 over 1. When you multiply fractions, you get 2 pi over 8. You can reduce that if you want, which is pi over 4. Now look at your unit circle, and you're going to try to find cosine at pi over 4, which is root 2 over 2. All right, now let's go to number 4. You're going to have 1 plus cosine of 300 degrees over 2. Now, find this on your formula chart again. 1 plus cosine over 2. It should match cosine of alpha divided by 2. Right? In this case, alpha is 300 degrees. So we want cosine of 300 divided by 2, which is cosine at 150. Now guys, cosine at 150 degrees on your unit circle, okay, 150 is over here in quadrant 2. And cosine in quadrant 2 is negative, right? Because you're talking about the x value. So if you're going this way on the unit circle, so cosine at negative 150 should be a negative number. So it's negative root 3 over 2. Okay, so now that you've got those kind of problems, we've done enough of those, we're going to change to one other type of problem. And it's the type where you have to set up a triangle, right? So let's set up a triangle, and but you only have to set up one triangle on these. Okay, you only have to set up one triangle. So here's the data for you. It's going to say given 180 degrees, and it's going to call your angle theta instead of alpha, but whatever. It's just representing an angle. What variable you put there to represent it, it doesn't make any difference. Okay, so 180 less than theta less than 360. And then it's going to tell me cosine of your angle is 3/5. And then it wants you to find some information. So that's the directions. I'll give you a second to write them down. Okay, knowing that, this is what's different. In the problems we did last time on the last test, I would give you one quadrant that it was in, and you just build your triangle in this quadrant. But this one, guys, if you look at this, it's saying it's between 180 and 360. So this is 0, 90, 180, 270, and 360. So this information, if I'm saying it's between 180 and 360, I'm telling you it's between these two quadrants, correct? And now then you have to decide. Well, let's look at what they tell us. They tell us that cosine of the angle is 3/5. So in other words, cosine, okay, is positive. So your cosine is positive. Now, if I know that I cannot be in either of these quadrants, I'm in one of these two. If you think about it, where's cosine positive? Where's the x-axis positive? To the right, quadrant 4. Okay, so it's going to be positive over here. Now, so when you're going to draw your triangle, you'll go out. Remember, always connect back to the x-axis. And let's write the information it told us about. It told us that cosine, which is adjacent over hypotenuse, so the adjacent is 3, the hypotenuse is 5, which is always positive. What's the other piece?
We did the...
Oh, I'm sorry, this should be 3, my fault. Okay, so adjacent is 3, the hypotenuse is 5. What's the other leg, guys? -4, and it's going down, so it's negative. To the right is positive, down is negative to get to this point. And the hypotenuse is always positive and always a whole number. Now, knowing that, you've got your triangle labeled, I'm going to ask you to find me cosine of twice your angle. Cosine of twice alpha. Now, when you're using your formula chart, there are lots of different ways to do cosine twice an angle. There's 3 different ways. 1, 2, 3. You can use any of the 3. To me, this one's longer because if I use this one, I have to find cosine and sine of the angle. Whereas for these two, I either have to find sine or cosine. I only have to find one thing. So guys, I'm going to use this middle formula for this one just so we'll all have the same one to try. Okay, I'm going to use the middle formula. So let's write it out. It's 1 minus 2 sine squared alpha. Okay, so we're going to fill it in. 1 minus, what is sine here? It gave me cosine, but what's sine? Sine's going to be, right, -4 over 5. Don't forget, then you have to have this square. You've got to square it. So this is exactly what it should look like. Now, guys, on the last test, some of you guys struggled. You would get your formulas right, and then you would just struggle typing it in your calculator. So everybody right now, turn it on, be sure it's in degrees, type this in, and we're going to get it right.
Yeah, you have the 2 in front of the...
Thank you. There should be a 2 here. Okay, so now type this in directly like it's written. Don't forget the square. Just the way it's written. I want to see it on everybody's calculator. You can have it look like this, 1 minus 2. That's one way to do it. You hit enter, and then do math, enter, enter, and you should get -7 over 25. Okay? All right, let's try the next one. Like I said, we're gonna use the calculator over and over to get our calculator skills better. So here's sine, and this time I'm gonna ask you for alpha over 2. The formula's a little different this time. So look at your formula chart, sine of alpha over 2, okay? And if you have sine of alpha over 2, there's only one option, and that's this right here. Notice it's got the plus or minus in front. That's not a big deal. Let's just put that in, okay? So we're going to fill in the plus or minus. Sine of alpha, so we're going to say it's plus or minus the square root of 1 minus cosine alpha all over 2. Right? Okay, what is cosine at alpha? Let's go back up here and look. It gave us cosine. We don't even have to do any work. It tells us it's 3/5, right? So just plug that in. So we're gonna take plus or minus square root of 1 minus 3/5 all over 2. Okay, once again, if you've tuned out, tune back in for some calculator skills for just a second. When you have this, we're going to ignore the radical for just a second, okay? We're going to pretend like the radical's not there, and we're going to do some math inside the radical. So on your calculator, I want you to find me the top answer. I want you to do 1 minus 3/5, okay? And then hit math and enter. And you'll get, obviously, 5/5 minus 3/5 is 2/5, okay? So you get 2/5. So I've got 2/5 over 2. Agree? Everybody got that part, right? So now then, like I said, we're still going to ignore the radical. Guys, do not type the radical in still, okay? Because it'll give you a number that we can't do anything with. So now I'm going to take and I'm going to solve this part. So I'm going to take 2/5. I'm going to divide by 2. You should be typing in your calculator. Hit enter, math, enter, enter, and you get 1/5. Everybody got that? So we're ignoring the radical, aren't we? We did all the math without the radical. So what's under the radical then is 1 over 5. Now in the last unit, we did not have to rationalize the denominator because it was a binomial, but these are very easy to rationalize, so we're going to do it, okay? This is the same thing as, we're going to write it twice, we've already done this before, but the square root of 1 over the square root of 5. That's the same thing, right? I'm breaking it up because it's easier. Because always what will happen is, what's the square root of 1? What is the square root of 1? 1, thank you. So this becomes just 1. But I can't take the square root of 5. So to rationalize the denominator, remember what we did? We take the square root of 5 times the square root of 5. So 1 times the square root of 5 is square root of 5, and root 5 times root 5 is just 5. So there's your answer, positive and negative root 5 over 5. I'll do more of those in just a second, so if you struggle with that, give me another problem and you'll get better. Okay, let's look at number 3. Number 3 says cosine of alpha divided by 2. Cosine of alpha divided by 2. Now, there's only one option for cosine of alpha divided by 2. There's not as many options for half angles, right? So this is the only thing. So write it out and let's fill in what we know. So plus or minus the square root of 1 plus cosine theta or alpha, whatever you want to call it, over 2.